Okay, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. So we already looked into just now the negotiated transfer price. Alberta company makes rubber soles for work hiking boots. You have two divisions, and then you want to identify whether what is the contribution margin and whether the internal transfer should take place or not. Okay, so the computation of the contribution margin per unit for each division when boot division purchases soles from an outside supplier. Now, sole division purchase from outside supplier instead of the internal transfer takes place. So, this one is the boot division. So, the selling price of boots is 90. Variable cost, that is excluding the sole 35. And then the sole is 17. So, this one, you've got a contribution sales minus your variable cost here and here. That gives you a contribution margin of 38. And then for the sole division, the selling price of sole is 18 and your variable cost is 11. So 18 minus 11 gives you 7. So that is your contribution margin for sole division. For the company as a whole, so you are looking at the company as a whole, the total contribution will be 38 plus 7. That is 45. Question: what would be a fair transfer price if the sole division sold 10,000 soles to the boot division? Now, sole division wants to sell, if they want to sell 10,000 soles, okay, 10,000 units to the boot division. Okay, instead of they purchase from outside supplier, why not you transfer? You have the internal transfer. So you look at it from two perspectives. One, if there is no excess capacity. Next one, we look into if you have excess capacity. Remember, I've already explained to you about the excess capacity and no excess capacity. So no excess capacity means you are now currently working at 100% capacity. Means you are fully utilized. All your resources are fully utilized. If you have utilized all your resources, if there were to be any more demand, can you fulfill that particular demand? So you won't be able to fulfill that particular demand without sacrificing the current production. So that is meant by no excess capacity. So I repeat, means no excess capacity means currently you are operating at 100% capacity. If you are operating at 100% capacity, that means all of your assets, all of your capacity, all of your resources, all your labor, all your resources are being fully utilized. If you fully utilize them, that means you cannot fulfill the new demand that you receive. If you insist on fulfilling that new demand, then you have to forego or you have to let go. You have to sacrifice the current production. If you sacrifice the current production, then there comes in opportunity cost. Okay, remember, there comes in opportunity cost. When we did the topic on the incremental analysis, you have opportunity cost. So opportunity cost you have to include in this, that in your transfer price. Okay, so we look at two different scenarios. One is no excess capacity. So if sells to boot, then payment must at least cover your variable cost per unit. Okay, logically, if you want to sell, okay, you look here. How much is your variable cost? Boot division wants to buy your product. If boot division wants to buy your product, you look at your variable cost. Oh, my variable cost is 11. Of course, you want to cover your cost. So in this case, sole division must make sure that this 11 ringgit is being covered. You must cover your variable cost. So that will be your variable cost. But now you have a loss of contribution margin. So that loss of contribution margin is known as the opportunity cost. Okay. I repeat, that means now if you were to sell to boot division, you cannot sell to the outside supplier. You cannot sell to the outside buyer. You cannot sell this 18 to the outsiders. How many units? How many units that I cannot sell to the outsider? I cannot sell 10,000 units because you, that means the boot division demand my product, then sole division cannot sell to the outside buyer. So if you cannot sell to the outside buyer, I have to let go that 10,000 soles or 10,000 units. So that 10,000 units, if one unit, I'm going to lose the contribution, the loss of contribution, I'm going to lose 7 ringgit. Okay. If I sacrifice selling to the outside 1 unit, I'm going to lose 7 ringgit. What if I cannot sell 10,000 units to the outsiders? So I'm going to lose 10,000 units times the 7, or per unit, I'm going to lose 7 ringgit. So my transfer price must be 18 ringgit. So that's the minimum. The minimum. What if 19? Yes, I can sell to you 19. If you want to purchase at 20 ringgit, of course, I'm happy to sell it to you at 20 ringgit or any price higher. But not any price lower than 18. Okay, not any price lower than 18 because that's the minimum transfer price. Okay, so from the perspective of the boot division, that is the buyer, the most it will pay is what the sole would cost from an outside supplier. So for the boot division, so you see boot division is the buyer. Boot division, they are purchasing from the outside supplier at 17. So if now you want to ask me to buy your product at 18, would you want to buy at 18? So from the boot division's perspective, so you don't want to buy anything more than 17. Okay, so for the buyer, for boot division, I will pay no more than 17 because that's the cost from the outside supplier. But now you want to sell me at 18. So boot division would say that she doesn't want to pay anything more than 17 ringgit. What about the seller? What about sole division's manager? I must receive at least my variable cost and my loss of contribution margin. So your variable cost is 11 plus your loss of contribution margin of 7. That means I must receive at least 18. I must receive at least 18. So would there be any transfer price? No, transfer price of 17, no deal, right? So that is the issue. Okay, the transfer price won't take place. What if there is excess capacity? And in another scenario, we assume there is an excess capacity. Excess capacity means now you can produce more. You have the ability, you have the capacity, you have the resources to produce more than, because you have idle capacity or excess capacity or extra capacity. It means the same. You can produce 80,000 souls but can sell only 70,000. So you have extra of 10. Okay, you have available 10. So your contribution margin of 7 ringgit per unit is not lost because you have the extra capacity. Currently, you are not selling all the 80. You only sell 70. There are another 10,000 units. Okay, so this one unit, you will get a contribution margin of 7. So the minimum transfer price acceptable to sole would be your variable cost because there is no opportunity cost. So the minimum transfer price would be 11. So in this case, the boot division and the sole division should negotiate a transfer price within the range of 11 to 17 because sole division say that I want at least 11. Alright, because that will cover your cost. But the boot division, I will pay no more than 17. Why? Because that's the cost from outside supplier. So they will make a deal at any price between 11 and 17. Any price within that range will do, right? So that is negotiated transfer price. You negotiate maybe 15 ringgit or whatever price that they both happy. So that is called the negotiated transfer price. Okay, after that, you need to look at the variable cost in the minimum transfer price formula. Variable cost is the variable cost of units sold internally. So it may differ higher or lower for units sold internally versus those sold externally. Okay, it may differ. For example, in our case just now, maybe if you were to sell outside, you can sell at 18, but if you want to sell internally, maybe you want to sell at, let's say, 15 or 16, for example. Okay, so that is, there may be different. And then the minimum transfer pricing formula can still be used. Just use the internal variable cost and uh, your opportunity cost. If you have the you have the spare capacity, then that will be zero opportunity cost. Okay, as a summary, transfer prices establish minimum by selling division and the maximum by the purchasing division. So we have seen just now, you make a range. Okay, you make a range, or the minimum is 11 and the maximum is 17. So that is minimum and the maximum. Often not used because market price information sometimes not easily obtained, because sometimes you have the components. So maybe some of the components you cannot easily obtain the market price, and then that could be because lack of trust between the two divisions, and then different pricing strategies between the divisions. So that is basically about the negotiated transfer price. So remember, we have the three methods to determine the transfer price. One is the negotiated transfer price. So the next one we will look into will be the cost base. Right? With that, I thank you.